I saved a child's life and became a villain in the eyes of their parents. I was eating lunch at Riverside Park when I heard the splashing. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, had fallen off the dock into the water. He was thrashing and going under, his mouth opening and closing but no sound coming out. I didn't think. I just ran. I jumped in and pulled him to the surface, dragging him back to the dock where a crowd had gathered. The kid was coughing up water but breathing. He was going to be okay. That's when his parents showed up. The mother, Rachel, came running from the parking lot, screaming her son's name. Tyler. The father, Mark, was right behind her. I expected relief, maybe gratitude, but when Rachel saw me holding her dripping son, her face went white. She snatched Tyler from my arms so violently that he started crying again. What did you do to him? She kept asking that, over and over. What did you do? I tried explaining that he'd fallen in and I'd pulled him out, but Mark stepped between us. His jaw clenched tight. You need to leave, now. The crowd seemed confused. Someone said I'd saved the kid's life, but Rachel was already walking away fast, clutching Tyler against her chest. Mark stared at me for a long moment before following them. I went home thinking it was just shock, that maybe they'd been too scared to process what happened, but 2 days later, Rachel showed up at my apartment building. I saw her from my window, sitting in a silver sedan across the street, just sitting there, watching my door. She was there for 3 hours. When I came out, she started her car and left. The next day she was back, this time with Mark. They sat in that car from 7 a.m. until I left for work. When I walked past them, Rachel rolled down her window. Stay away from our family. That's all she said, but her hands were shaking on the steering wheel. That same week, I got called into my manager's office. Someone had filed a complaint claiming I'd been harassing a family at the park. They'd given my description and said I'd approached their child inappropriately. I explained what really happened, showed my manager the local news article about the rescue that had run with my name in it. He seemed satisfied, but told me to be careful. 2 weeks later, Mark showed up at my gym. He didn't exercise. He just stood near the entrance, watching me through the glass. When I finished my workout and headed to my car, he followed me across the parking lot. His hands were in his pockets and he kept a distance, but his eyes never left me. I stopped and turned around, asking what he wanted. He got this look on his face that I couldn't read, something between fear and rage. You don't know what you did. That was all he said before walking back to his car. I started noticing them everywhere. At the grocery store, outside my work. One time, Rachel was sitting in the coffee shop across from my office, laptop open, but she wasn't looking at the screen. She was looking at my building. I called the police to report the stalking, but they said unless Mark and Rachel made threats or trespassed, there wasn't much they could do. I showed the officer photos I'd taken of their car outside my apartment. He said it looked like they were just parked on a public street. Then my car got keyed. Someone scraped deep gouges down both sides, and when I checked my door camera footage, I saw Mark's silver sedan drive by slowly at 2 a.m., but the angle didn't show who actually keyed it. My landlord mentioned that a woman had come by asking questions about me, how long I'd lived there, if I lived alone, whether I had visitors. That night, I found an envelope taped to my apartment door. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single photo of Tyler at the park, dated 3 days after I'd pulled him from the water. He was back at that same dock, and someone had drawn a red X over my face in the background of the photo. I flipped the photo over. 3 words were written on the back in shaky handwriting. You ruined everything. I sat on my couch, staring at those words, trying to understand what they meant. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. When I answered, I heard Rachel's voice. We need to meet. There's something you need to understand about that day, about what you interrupted. And that's when I realized what I'd actually done. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I hang up the phone, Rachel's words echoing in my head. There's something you need to understand about that day, about what you interrupted. What could I possibly have interrupted by saving a drowning child? The rational part of my brain says this is insanity, that these people are deranged, but the tremor in her voice sounded almost desperate. I pace my apartment, the photo with the red X still clutched in my hand. My reflection catches in the window, and for a split second, I imagine myself as they see me, some kind of monster who ruined everything by pulling their son from the water. The local news website is still open on my laptop from when I'd shown my manager the article about the rescue. I scroll through it again, searching for anything I might have missed. Local man saves child at Riverside Park. The article is brief, mentioning only that a 5-year-old boy had fallen from the dock and was rescued by a bystander me. No quotes from the parents. No follow-up. Just a small human interest story that disappeared from the news cycle within a day. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Leave Tyler alone. Final warning. A chill runs through me. I didn't even know where Tyler lived. I wasn't trying to find him or contact him. I was just trying to live my life after saving his. Sleep doesn't come that night. At dawn, I drag myself to my apartment window and peer down at the street. The silver sedan is already there. I grab my phone and take more photos, zooming in on the license plate. Then I notice something strange. Rachel isn't just sitting in her car today. She's standing across the street with a professional-looking camera, photographing my building entrance. I duck back from the window, heart hammering. This has gone beyond weird into genuinely frightening. On impulse, I call the building manager and ask if I can see security footage from the front entrance. He's reluctant at first, but when I mention potential stalking, he agrees. The grainy footage shows what I feared. Rachel has been photographing everyone entering and leaving the building for days, tracking my movements, learning my patterns. That afternoon, I do something I probably should have done sooner. I research them. Mark and Rachel Harrington. It doesn't take long to find them online. Both are scientists with PhDs in molecular biology. They work for Crestwood Pharmaceuticals, a biotech company I've never heard of. Their social media accounts are locked down tight, but LinkedIn tells me they're both senior researchers with impressive credentials. Wealthy, accomplished, respected in their field. Nothing about them suggests the kind of people who would stalk and threaten someone who saved their child from drowning. I'm distracted all day at work, jumping every time the door opens. Around 3, I glance out the window and freeze. Mark is sitting in his car in the parking lot, staring directly at my office window. He doesn't move, doesn't pretend to be doing anything else, just watches. When our eyes meet, he doesn't look away. You okay? Alex asks, rolling his chair over to my desk. You look like you've seen a ghost. I hesitate, then decide I need to tell someone. Alex has been my friend since I started working here 2 years ago. If something happens to me, someone should know why. See that guy in the silver sedan? I point discreetly. That's the the father of the kid I pulled out of the water at Riverside Park. Alex squints. The drowning kid? Why is he here? I tell him everything. The rescue, the parents' bizarre reaction, the stalking, the threats, the photo with the X through my face. Alex's expression shifts from confusion to concern to alarm. Dude, these people sound dangerous, he says when I finish. Have you gone to the police? They said there's nothing they can do unless Mark and Rachel make explicit threats or trespass. Alex studies Mark through the window. Maybe they're hiding something. Nobody acts this way because someone saved their kid. It's like they wanted him to drown. The thought sends ice through my veins. That's insane. What parents would want their child to drown? I don't know, Alex says slowly. But scientists at a pharmaceutical company? Maybe Tyler was sick. Maybe they had him on some experimental treatment that got interrupted when you pulled him out. It sounds far-fetched, but no more far-fetched than parents stalking the person who rescued their child. After work, I drive straight to the police station, determined to make another report. The same officer from before listens with thinning patience as I show him the new photos. The threatening text describe Mark watching my workplace. Look, he says finally. This sounds like a family misunderstanding. Maybe they're embarrassed about how they reacted. Maybe they're dealing with some personal issues. But unless they directly threaten you or break the law, there's not much we can do. I leave the station feeling more alone than ever. When I reach my apartment building, I check carefully before getting out of my car. No silver sedan in sight. Maybe they've finally given up. That hope dies when I reach my apartment door. A small dead bird lies on the welcome mat, its neck twisted at an unnatural angle. Not a coincidence. Not in this context. I step carefully over it and unlock my door with shaking hands. Once inside, I order a security camera system with overnight delivery. As I clean up the dead bird with gloves and a plastic bag, I realize something that should have been obvious from the start. Rachel's phone call wasn't an apology. It was a summons. And whatever they want to tell me about what I interrupted that day at the dock, I'm suddenly certain I don't want to hear it alone in some isolated meeting place. But I also know I won't be able to live my life with them, watching from the shadows. Whatever this is, whatever I've stumbled into, I need to understand it before it consumes me entirely. I look down at my phone at Rachel's number still in my call history. I need to know what they think I've done, what they think I've ruined, and most importantly, I need to know what they want from me now. Monday morning, I wake up to a text from my manager asking me to come in early for a meeting. Something in my gut tells me this isn't about the Henderson account. I'm right. When I arrive, the HR director is waiting alongside my manager, both wearing expressions that tell me everything before they speak a word. My manager can't quite meet my eyes as the HR director explains they're going in a different direction and my services are no longer required. Did Mark Harrington contact the company? I ask, already knowing the answer. My manager's eyes widen slightly. I'm not at liberty to discuss the details of executive level communications. Executive level. So Mark went straight to the top. Of course he did. I clean out my desk while Alex hovers nearby, whispering, "This is seriously messed up. What did this guy say to get you fired?" I have no idea, I tell him, though theories are already forming, but I'm guessing it wasn't the truth. The truth, I'm learning, seems to be whatever Mark and Rachel want it to be. I discover just how far they're willing to go when I return home to find my neighbors eyeing me suspiciously in the hallway. Mrs. Patel, who usually greets me with a smile, clutches her purse tighter and hurries into her apartment. Mr. Ramirez, who's always asking about my day, stares at me with undisguised contempt. The reason becomes clear when I find a flyer taped to my door. My photo, clearly taken from my company website, is printed above text warning residents about a dangerous predator in the building who targets children. The flyer claims I have a history of suspicious behavior around minors and urges neighbors to protect your families. I rip it down, hands shaking, then notice identical flyers on other doors down the hallway. How many of my neighbors have already seen this? How many believe it? I spend the next hour tearing down every flyer I can find, but the damage is done. The security cameras I installed catch nothing. Whoever posted these knew exactly where the blind spots were. The next day, I'm at the grocery store when I feel someone watching me. I turn to find Rachel standing at the end of the aisle, her eyes fixed on me with an intensity that makes my skin crawl. "He was ours," she hisses as I pass, her voice barely audible. "You had no right." I stop, turning to face her. "What are you talking about? I saved Tyler's life." Her laugh is hollow, almost clinical. "Is that what you think happened? You understand nothing." Before I can respond, she's gone, disappearing around the corner. Her words echo in my head all the way home. He was ours. Not he is our son, but he was ours. Like property. Like an experiment. Alex's theory about pharmaceutical testing keeps nagging at me. That night, I dig deeper into Crestwood Pharmaceuticals. Their website is sleek but vague, mentioning cutting-edge genetic therapies and revolutionary approaches to human enhancement. Nothing specific about their research or clinical trials. It takes some digging through medical journals and research databases, but I eventually find papers co-authored by Mark and Rachel Harrington. Their work focuses on genetic modifications to enhance human respiratory function, specifically the ability to process oxygen more efficiently at the cellular level. The connection hits me like a physical blow. Tyler, the drowning. What if it wasn't an accident? I need more information. Using skills I'm not proud of from a misspent youth, I managed to access Tyler's medical records through a hospital database. What I find turns my blood to ice. In the months before the incident at Riverside Park, Tyler had undergone dozens of unusual tests and treatments, all authorized by his parents. Blood work showing abnormal oxygen levels, lung capacity tests far beyond normal parameters for a child his age, notes about remarkable adaptation to controlled hypoxic environments. The final entry, dated 3 days before I pulled him from the water, includes a doctor's concern about accelerating cellular degradation and potential organ failure. The doctor had recommended discontinuing the treatment immediately. When I return home that night, I know something is wrong before I even reach my door. It's slightly ajar, though I'm certain I locked it. Inside, my apartment has been methodically searched. Drawers pulled open, papers scattered, laptop missing. Nothing of value is gone. This wasn't a robbery. I'm standing in the wreckage when my phone rings. Unknown number. "You're becoming a problem." Mark's voice is calm, almost conversational. "You've destroyed years of careful work. What did you do to your son?" I demand. "Improved him," Mark replies without hesitation. "Or we were trying to, before you interfered. Do you have any idea what you interfered interrupted. The breakthrough we were on the verge of achieving? He's a child, not a lab rat. He's the future, Mark says, his voice hardening. And you're nothing but an obstacle. The line goes dead. I immediately call the police, but once again, they're skeptical. Without clear evidence linking Mark and Rachel to the break-in, there's little they can do. The next day, I notice men in dark suits photographing me as I enter my therapist's office. They don't even try to be subtle anymore. When I check my car afterward, I find what I feared, a small tracking device magnetically attached to the undercarriage. I leave it there. Let them track me. Let them think they know where I am. That night, as I'm researching lawyers who specialize in harassment cases, my phone rings again. It's Rachel. We need to talk, she says, her voice different now, frightened. There are things you need to understand, things Mark doesn't want you to know. I'm not meeting you anywhere, I tell her. Please, she whispers, and I hear genuine fear. Tyler is in danger. What we did, it's killing him. Mark won't stop the protocol, even though she breaks off, her voice catching. Crestwood Labs, midnight, come alone. I can explain everything. She hangs up before I can respond. I sit there, staring at my phone, weighing my options. Going alone to meet Rachel at an abandoned lab in the middle of the night seems suicidal. Not going might leave Tyler in danger. I don't fully understand. I think about the boy's face as I pulled him from the water. The way he looked at me, not with fear, but with something that looked almost like recognition, like he knew I would come for him. I check my security cameras one last time, then begin preparing. If I'm going to Crestwood Labs tonight, I'm not going unprepared, and I'm certainly not going alone. I sit in my car across the street from Crestwood Labs, watching the abandoned building through a light drizzle that's been falling since sunset. The rain distorts the glow of the single security light above the loading dock, making the whole scene look like something from a nightmare, which, I suppose, it is. My phone shows 11:52 p.m. I'm early, but Rachel hasn't arrived yet, at least not through the main entrance. I double-check the small voice recorder hidden in my jacket pocket and the backup app running on my phone. Whatever Rachel plans to tell me about Tyler, I want it documented. Alex is parked 2 blocks away, ready to call the police if I don't text him by 12:30. Coming here alone was stupid, but bringing someone directly into this mess felt worse. This compromise was the best we could manage. At exactly midnight, headlights appear at the far end of the parking lot. Rachel's car pulls up to a side entrance, and I watch her sit motionless behind the wheel for nearly a minute before finally stepping out. She looks thinner than when I last saw her, her movements jerky and uncertain as she unlocks a service door. I give her 5 minutes, then follow. The interior of the lab is eerily quiet, emergency lights casting long shadows across abandoned equipment. I find Rachel in what appears to be a former research area, standing beside a desk covered with file folders. When she sees me, she doesn't look surprised or relieved, just resigned. You came, her voice echoes slightly in the empty space. I want to know what's happening to Tyler, I say, keeping my distance, and why you and Mark have been terrorizing me for saving his life. Rachel laughs, a hollow sound devoid of humor. That's the thing. You didn't save his life. You interrupted a controlled experiment. She opens one of the folders, revealing photographs of Tyler in what looks like a hyperbaric chamber. Tyler isn't just our son. He's subject 7 in a genetic enhancement trial that Crestwood has been running for 3 years. My stomach turns as she continues, her clinical tone making the horror of her words even worse. We modified Tyler's genome when he was still an embryo, enhancing his ability to process oxygen at the cellular level. The drowning at Riverside Park wasn't an accident. It was the final test of his respiratory enhancements. You tried to drown your own child? My voice rises, despite my effort to stay calm. Not drown. We were testing his enhanced ability to extract oxygen from water. He was supposed to be able to breathe underwater for up to 15 minutes. She pulls out more documents, charts, graphs, genetic sequences. I don't understand. The modifications were working. He was adapting, until you pulled him out and triggered an immune response that's now attacking the modified cells. I feel physically sick. He's 5 years old. He's not a lab rat. He's the culmination of decades of research, Rachel says. But there's something breaking in her voice. Mark believes we can still salvage the experiment. That's why he's been trying to silence you. If Crestwood's board discovers we used our own son, a door slams somewhere in the building, and Rachel freezes mid-sentence. Footsteps echo down the hallway, growing louder. You weren't supposed to bring anyone, she whispers urgently. I didn't. Mark appears in the doorway, his face transforming from confusion to rage when he sees me. What have you done? He hisses at Rachel. What have you told him? The truth, Rachel says, straightening her spine. It's over, Mark. Tyler is dying. The experiment failed. It didn't fail, Mark shouts, slamming his fist against a metal cabinet. We were so close. Years of work, millions in funding, and this. Nobody ruined everything. He's our son, Rachel screams back. Not just Subject 7. Mark stares at her like she's betrayed him in the most fundamental way possible. Then he notices the folders spread across the desk and lunges for them. I move faster, grabbing as many documents as I can and shoving them inside my jacket. Security! Mark yells into what I now realize is a communication device on his wrist. Breach in Section C. Containment protocol. Rachel grabs my arm. Run. There's an emergency exit through the lab. They'll be here in seconds. We sprint through a maze of abandoned research stations. Behind us, I hear doors slamming open, voices shouting commands. The emergency exit leads to a back lot where more cars are arriving, headlights sweeping across the pavement. My car's on the other side, I tell Rachel, pulling her toward a fence line. I can't come with you, she says, pushing a flash drive into my hand. This has everything: the full research protocol, Tyler's medical records, proof of what they did to him. Get it to someone who can help. Before I can respond, the security alarm blares to life, bathing the building in pulsing red light. We separate at the fence, me scrambling over, while Rachel runs toward another exit. I make it to my car just as men in tactical gear pour out of the building. The engine roars to life, and I peel out of the parking lot, but headlights immediately appear in my rearview mirror. 2 black SUVs in pursuit, gaining fast. The rain has intensified, making the roads slick as I weave through late-night traffic, desperately trying to lose my pursuers. I call Alex, gasping out that I'm being chased and need help. He tells me he's already called the police, giving them my location. The chase continues through the city, the SUVs staying right with me despite every turn and maneuver. I realize with growing dread where this is heading the same route I took that day, leading straight to Riverside Park. Park. When I reach the parking lot by the dock, I'm trapped. The SUVs block the exit, and Mark steps out of the lead vehicle, something metallic glinting in his hand. A gun. Give me the files, he says, approaching slowly. Everything Rachel gave you. It's over, Mark, I say, backing toward the water. The police are on their way. Jump or get shot, he responds coldly, raising the weapon. Your choice. A small voice cuts through the standoff. Dad, stop. We both turn to see Tyler standing at the edge of the parking lot, soaking wet in pajamas, his small chest heaving with exertion. How he got here, I have no idea. Tyler, go back to the car, Mark orders, his voice cracking slightly. No, Tyler screams, with more force than should be possible from such a small body. Don't hurt him. He helped me. Mark hesitates, the gun wavering, and in that moment of distraction, police sirens wail in the distance, growing louder by the second. He was drowning me, Tyler says, his voice carrying clearly across the rainy parking lot. I couldn't breathe the water like you said. I tried, but it hurt. Mark's face crumples as the first police car pulls into the lot, lights flashing. He lowers the gun, looking suddenly lost. Rachel appears behind Tyler, wrapping her arms around him protectively. When the police officers approach with weapons drawn, she steps forward. My name is Dr. Rachel Harrington, she says clearly. I need to report illegal human experimentation being conducted by Crestwood Pharmaceuticals, my husband and I. Her voice breaks. We used our son as a test subject. The drowning at Riverside Park wasn't an accident. It was Tyler trying to escape the experiment. He was trying to end it the only way he knew how. As the officers take Mark into custody, I watch Tyler standing in the rain, looking somehow both impossibly young and impossibly old. Our eyes meet across the chaos, and I see in his expression what I missed that day at the dock. Not just fear of drowning, but relief at finally being found. The morning of the Crestwood hearing is overcast. The sky, a flat gray that matches the color of the federal courthouse. I adjust my tie in the reflection of the car window, trying to calm the flutter of nerves in my stomach. It's been 3 weeks since that night at Riverside Park. 3 weeks of depositions and evidence collection and watching the Crestwood scandal explode across national headlines. You ready for this? Alex asks, leaning against his car. He's taken the day off work to support me, something I'll never be able to thank him enough for. As ready as I'll ever be, I reply, checking my watch. Let's go. Inside, the courtroom is packed with reporters, lawyers, and curious onlookers. I spot Mark immediately, sitting at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, a far cry from the powerful scientist who once threatened me with a gun. His eyes meet mine briefly before darting away. He looks smaller somehow, diminished. Rachel sits separately with her attorney. She's cooperating with authorities in exchange for reduced charges, her testimony crucial to unraveling the full scope of Crestwood's illegal experiments. When she sees me, she offers a small, sad nod. The hearing begins with clinical precision. Prosecutors outline the charges against Crestwood Pharmaceuticals: illegal human experimentation, child endangerment, falsification of medical records, corporate fraud. The list goes on. 3 executives besides Mark are being charged as co-conspirators. When it's my turn to testify, I walk to the stand feeling the weight of every eye in the room. I tell the story from the beginning: the rescue at Riverside Park, the parents' bizarre reaction, the escalating harassment, the revelation at the abandoned lab. My voice only wavers once, when describing Tyler standing in the rain that night, telling his father he couldn't breathe underwater like they said. And in your opinion, the prosecutor asks, what was the purpose of the experiment at Riverside Park? According to Dr. Rachel Harrington's testimony and the documents I recovered, they were testing Tyler's ability to extract oxygen directly from water. They genetically modified him as an embryo to develop enhanced respiratory capabilities. A murmur runs through the courtroom. The judge calls for order. And what was happening to Tyler physically as a result of these modifications? I swallow hard. His body was rejecting the genetic modifications. His immune system was attacking the modified cells, causing organ damage. According to his medical records, he was dying. Mark's attorney objects, claiming I'm not qualified to make medical assessments. The objection is sustained, but the damage is done. The horror of what happened to Tyler hangs in the air like a physical presence. After the hearing, I'm approached by a woman in a lab coat who introduces herself as Dr. Keller, the physician now overseeing Tyler's treatment. I wanted to thank you, she says quietly. Without the evidence you recovered, we wouldn't have understood what was happening to Tyler's body. We've developed a treatment protocol that's reversing the genetic modifications. He's responding well. Relief floods through me. Is he going to be okay? It's a long process, she explains. The modifications were extensive, but yes, I believe he'll make a full recovery. Where is he now? I ask. With his Aunt Rachel's sister. The court granted her temporary custody while his parents await trial. 2 weeks later, I receive a call from Tyler's aunt, asking if I'd be willing to see him. He keeps asking about you, she explains. I think it would help him process everything. We meet at a park, not Riverside, a different one with a playground and families having picnics under oak trees. When Tyler sees me, he runs over, stopping just short of hugging me, suddenly shy. Hi, he says, looking up at me with those serious eyes that seem too old for his face. Hi, Tyler, I reply, kneeling down to his level. How are you feeling? Better, he says. Dr. Keller says the bad cells are going away. I don't have to do the breathing tests anymore. His aunt gives us some space, walking a short distance away while keeping us in sight. Do you remember that day? I ask carefully. At the dock? Tyler nods, picking at a loose thread on his shirt. I wasn't supposed to come up. Dad said I had to stay under longer, but it hurt. His voice drops to a whisper. I wanted it to stop. I thought if I stayed under long enough, everything would just stop. My heart breaks at the realization that this 5-year-old child had been attempting suicide, the only escape he could imagine from the experiments. They said I was special, Tyler continues, that I was helping science, but I just wanted to be normal. You are special, I tell him, but not because of what they did to you. You're brave and strong, and you deserve to just be a kid. Oh, Mom says she's sorry, Tyler says suddenly. She visits sometimes. She cries a lot. Do you think she loves you? I ask carefully. Tyler considers this with the seriousness only children can muster. She loves me wrong, he says finally. That's what my aunt says. They loved me wrong. That's a good way to put it. I agree. We spend an hour together, talking about normal things, his new school, the video games he likes, the puppy his aunt is thinking about adopting. When it's time to leave, he hugs me unexpectedly. slowly, his small arms wrapping tightly around my waist. "Thank you for pulling me out," he whispers. 6 months later, I receive an envelope in the mail. Inside is a crayon drawing of 2 stick figures, one small, one large, standing by what appears to be water. On the back, in careful child's handwriting, "Thanks for saving me twice," from Tyler. There's also a note from his aunt. Tyler's treatments are working. The genetic modifications are nearly reversed. He's attending school regularly, making friends, seeing a therapist who specializes in childhood trauma. Mark has been sentenced to 15 years. Rachel received 5 years with the possibility of parole after 2, due to her cooperation. I pinned the drawing to my refrigerator, a reminder that sometimes being a villain in someone's story means you're the hero in a different one, the one that matters. And sometimes saving a life is just the beginning of the story, not the end.